Hi everyone, my name is Maria Carmen. I'm from the Cardano community, where we're going to talk about Empowa. This is the first real fi property platform. It's it's not a financial advice. Do your own research. Please like and share. How are you doing, Glen?
Great, and yourself, Maria?
I'm doing well. I'm very curious about the news. I know that you grow a lot, lots of things happening in the project.
Yeah, it's been great, Maria. Thanks. And to be honest, we've been actually quite overwhelmed by the response. Obviously, we're passionate about the project, but when you get the community buy-in and community passion, it's been fantastic, and it's been really great to get the response that we've been getting.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Maybe people are here for the first time, they didn't see your first video. Let's tell them what you're doing. You're building affordable houses in Mozambique, and I would like you to explain a little bit what you're doing and the partnership that you have to make the...
Yeah, so our whole objective is to utilize DeFi for the building of affordable housing, as you say. One of the greatest challenges that we have in the developing world is housing. In Africa, there's a backlog of 50 million homes across Africa. Wow. And that's over 1 billion people who do not have a permanent roof over their head. And the amazing concept around that is that most people believe that's due to poverty. But as you know, it's not. It costs money to be poor. So in fact, in the research that I was doing, what it showed was that in fact, to rent land on which you had to build your own corrugated iron shack, the cost of that was between 4 and 7 times higher than the cost of formal rental accommodation in a proper building in the center of town in some of these cities. So what that indicates is it's not a function of money. It's not a function of poverty, the shortage of housing. It's a structural issue. And that's because the structures, all the systems and processes that are catered and geared for the first world do not work in the developing world. And with that, that's what creates the constraints. So one of the exciting parts about the blockchain is that we're looking at how can we utilize the blockchain and DeFi and cryptocurrencies to overcome these structural constraints to address the affordable housing problem. And that's effectively what we're doing at Empowa.
So what you're doing in Empowa, you can replicate in other places in the world, because as I see is a current problem in Mozambique, as you explained to me before, it's expensive to build. People build houses in Mozambique with fragile components, and when we get a storm, it's all going again. So people are building houses over and over and over. And I wanted to ask, do you build these houses with different material? How you're building it?
Yeah, so absolutely. So part of the challenge, as you say, in Mozambique, there are 600 mortgages in a country of 30 million people. So now everybody expects me to add on 1,000 to the 600 number. It's not 600,000, it's 600 mortgages in a country of 30 million people. Now, that's what I mean by the systems and structures don't work. So if you can't get a mortgage, then you can imagine what happens to the challenge of building a home. So our whole objective, so it ends up that most houses, as you said, are self-built. So they're self-built. And Mozambique is also one of the most climate-affected countries in the world because it's in the Mozambique Channel. So it's now being hit by cyclones regularly, which then means that those houses get destroyed regularly. So what we are seeking to prove is, because Mozambique is one of the poorest countries in the world, what we thought is if we demonstrate our project in Mozambique, we'll demonstrate that it can work anywhere. And that was one of the objectives. So right now we've said Africa is our focus, but obviously if it works in Africa, it could work anywhere in the world. Particularly, we're focused on the developing world, but absolutely it can work anywhere in the world. So in Mozambique, our objective was to enable the building of the first eco-friendly houses. So it was also around building structured homes, which is very, very important. So they're properly built homes, so they're climate resilient, so they can withstand a cyclone. But part of the process is we wouldn't be doing our job for the planet if we weren't also pushing the boundaries in terms of environmental building. So to take that into account. So the first 4 houses that we've built are eco-friendly houses, and testing both the ability to push the eco boundaries, the affordability of that, and to push that entire process for market acceptance, etc.
So you're talking about building 4 houses. Was the houses built with catalyst money?
Yes.
Tell me
Yes.
more about it, because people maybe are watching and they don't know what the catalyst is. You got a fund from the community and then you built a few houses. Could you explain to us?
Sure. So in fact, I mean, we're a Cardano love story. Because when I was first introduced to this, I'd been doing this, looking at affordable housing, and when somebody said to me, you should look at crypto to start as a solution. And I was like, I'd looked at it before, at Bitcoin, and I was going, no, I don't really see it. I don't see how that's going to work. And somebody said to me, have a look at Cardano. And I started exploring with that. And I thought, this is getting interesting. And on the Cardano forum, I put my hand up and said, I'm looking for somebody to help in terms of explaining the technology and all of the systems and processes of how this could work. And a guy called Phil Lewis from Australia put his hand up, and together we wrote the white paper that became the Empowa white paper. And he's the co-founder of Empowa. And so together we wrote the white paper, and then what we did was we applied for catalyst funding, as you say. And for those, I'm sure your community knows the catalyst funding, basically the VC element, if you like, or the seed capital funding from Cardano to support projects like this. And so we asked actually to fund 2 houses. We asked for catalyst funding to fund 2 houses. We ended up delivering 4. Again, just to community support, those were the 2 that were relationships and partnerships in order to deliver on the ground. And we wanted to deliver to show the people on the ground that the crypto community is not just a bunch of drug dealers and money launderers, which is a large perception in terms of, there's a lot of people who still believe that, particularly in that part of the world. And to say, together, we're going to bring the 2 together, and we're going to build the first eco-friendly houses. And so we're very proud of the fact that we actually did that. So we got the first EDGE, and we're applying for EDGE certification, which is the environmental standard from the IFC, which is the private sector arm of the World Bank. So it's really around pushing standards for building, for environmental standards. So we pushed it really, so where we had one house which was 20% improvement on the existing standards, 1 which was 40, and 2 which was CO2 negative.
Getting better and better.
Absolutely. So the CO2 negative, we're testing the market acceptance of that, because that's completely changing the building materials. It's also cyclone resistant. Obviously, it's built to standards, but it's new materials and circular building. So we can reuse the materials and environmentally friendly, but it's a big move from the traditional building materials, as you can imagine. So we want to test the market and make sure that there's market acceptance, because for affordable housing, the house is a huge element of people's wealth. And so they can't afford to take risks. So they're very, very risk averse when it comes to new building materials, new ways of doing things. And for the last 100 years, we've been saying to people, bricks and mortar is the way to build. We should build with bricks and mortar. Now we're saying, oh, bricks and mortar is no good for the planet, But the people who you're building for are going, really? That's your, rich people's problem, the planet. I just want a house, please.
I know we live in different parts of the world and we have different necessities, but like in Brazil, we don't have enough house for people. Most of people pay rent. In Ireland, we are having a house crisis where the rent goes up, where the price of the house goes up. So I think it's a global problem, but I do like your solution, because what's happening is we have this level of people where they can get a mortgage, but we have people below it. And then I see you getting there and solving this type of people problems, real problems.
Absolutely. If you can imagine that triangle that you talked about, the top people in Mozambique, that's the 600. Below that is the 29,900,000 people, who sit below that. Now, in anybody's books, that can't be a question of affordability. again, it comes back to the system of the banking systems and the mortgage systems and the structures and everything else just are not working. So it's a very interesting business opportunity. And that's what I really want to emphasize here, because Empowa, what we're doing is amazing in terms of changing the world and changing the planet and providing opportunity for people. But it will only work if it works on self-interest. So it has to be beneficial for the people who contribute the funding, as well as the people who receive the funding. And that's really where the opportunity is and the technology is, because we're improving efficiencies and reducing costs in order to do that. And that's the big and exciting opportunity.
It is exciting. We are changing the words bit by bit. So then let's talk about the KYC. How is the process? What people have to go, what they need to do? Is there a timeline what people have to obey to be able to buy your token? How does it all work?
How's it all working? So as part of our ethos of empowerment, we have tried to make this as a democratic and open system as possible. And in order to do that, we've made it very small numbers and a process whereby to try and give as many people the opportunity to have access to it as possible. So the KYC opened on the 8th of December, and it's open all the time. So at any stage, you can go onto the Empowa website, to the token sale, and register there in terms of a KYC process, which is a simple process. But it was recommended that we do that just in order to reduce the risk, obviously, of the whole project, which we certainly want to achieve. And unfortunately, that means we have to exclude our American friends, as you know. Please don't take it out on us. Go and speak. The last thing we wanted to do was cut out Americans, but unfortunately, we've had to. And then from what happens is after you've KYC'd, you can register on the on our website. You can register for the rounds, and effectively there are four rounds. The first round, which opened up on the 25th of Jan, and is open right now, which is still open today on the 3rd, is round one. So you register and you can buy up to a maximum of 100 EMP, a minimum of 100, sorry, and a maximum of 1,000. And they're priced at 25 US cents each. But the payment is in ADA, from an ADA wallet, please, not a DEX wallet.
Yeah, or an exchange wallet.
Exactly, not an exchange wallet. So that's very important. So the ability is, so really the maximum amount that we're talking about is $250. That's the first round. So everybody has the opportunity to get in at a small amount. Then there's the second round, which is exactly the same, and that runs until from the 7th to the 14th of February.
Would the token be the same price, or the
same
token
price.
go up the same price?
Price. So it's exactly the same price, exactly. So the objective here is not to try and force people to rush, but actually to give people the opportunity to get in. That's the whole objective. In the third round, the maximum is increased to 4,000 EMP. And if you don't get in round 1 or 2, you automatically go to the front of the queue, to the next queue. So you have the option all the time to get to the front. That's what I'm talking about the ethos around trying to get as many people as we can engaged and involved in this kind of project. And then the fourth round is an open round. So if there are any EMP remaining after the first 3 rounds, then it will be opened, and then it will be, then they will have no limits in terms of the higher amounts. Not no limits, but much higher limits. They haven't been determined yet. They will be determined once we know exactly, where we are, and in terms again of about distributing them fairly and equitably. That's the objective.
Okay, Glenn, can we talk about the ISPO part of your project? How does it work? Who is eligible?
Sure. So the ISPO, again, as part of our ethos, we consulted with the community and talked about access to tokens. And the community, some of the community wanted access through a stake pool operator, through an ISPO, and others wanted a direct sale. So we did both. And again, as part of our ethos with the ISPO, we partnered with existing stake pool operators. So we didn't form our own. We partnered with 2 existing stake pool operators based in Africa. And in order to do so, we ask them to run the stake pool for us. And we've got 2 stake pools running, one called EMP1 and the other one called EMP2. And the process of that is that instead of using the ADA to buy the tokens, you can stake your ADA with either of those stake pools. And then rather than getting the ADA rewards, you forfeit those ADA rewards for EMP rewards. Again, all of this information is on our website, on empowa.io, on the website. And so any information, further information is all there. And the objective of that is to really make that open for everybody. So that it's the whole objective is to enable that anybody who's an ADA holder can become an EMP holder.
That's very interesting. That is open to everybody who wants to get some rewards on your token. So Glenn, my curiosity now is how are you going to be using this money from the token sale in your project?
Yeah, thanks, Bria. So right now we're doing, on the public sale, we are issuing 20 million tokens out of a total of 200. So, and that funding will be used for the development of the platform itself. So that's the objective, is obviously we need to do the development. So we need the resources. So we need, and as you know, blockchain developers at this stage do not come cheap. So that's part of our challenges is that. So that they're really for the platform itself. It's the development of the platform and the team to run the project. The rest of it, again, it's all broken down, but the vast majority of tokens are in fact going to be utilized for the funding of housing projects. So of the 200 million, more than 60% are actually going to be utilized for that and will only be sold against NFTs for that project, for projects. So that becomes specifically for projects. So the tokenomics is actually somewhat different to a standard project. We're not a standard project at all. Because of the way we're utilizing it and because of what we're doing, it's a slightly different structure. But the exciting part around it, and again, on our website, there's an explanation of the tokenomics in quite some detail and how the token is going to be utilized. So the EMP, how it's going to be utilized in order to facilitate the transfer of value between the NFT to the house for that individual and then back again. And the point of that funding is that in Mozambique, for example, the mortgage rate is 32%. Now, nobody can afford a house when the interest rates are that. So what we're seeking to do is to find ways to reduce the cost of that capital. And the reason that it's so high is not because of the economic conditions, actually. It's because the government, the country is so badly run, so that the perception of the economy is so bad that the currency is so weak. And therefore the interest rates are so high because also it's an elitist thing. So part of what we're seeking to do is to drive down the cost of the interest rate for the individuals to be able to pay back to, that's why to make the housing affordable while still providing a return back to that NFT so that there's an earning mechanism for that. So it's a very interesting financial cycle in terms of creating value for people through providing affordable housing on the ground one way. So how this is going to work is that the objective is, the objective of the platform is to make it attractive to the providers of capital without being extractive or exploitative from people on the ground. So how do we do that? So the way we're doing that is by creating an NFT to utilize as the capital, if you like. So we sell an NFT, and the attributes of that NFT could be art, it could be any other attributes that are also attractive, collectability, all the normal NFT kind of attributes. But it also gives you, and this is the important part, over and above those attributes, it gives you the portion, the rights to a portion of the income from the house that you fund. So let's give you an example. So let's say we sell 10 NFTs for $1,000. That $10,000 that is utilized is then utilized to build a house for somebody on the ground. So it's translated into EMPs. Mm-hmm. It's translated into EMPs and then delivered on the ground So a house to that value is delivered. The person on the ground then repays that on a lease to own basis, back through the platform, back through EMPs, and those are earned back to the NFT. So the NFT becomes a portion of the right to that loan plus the interest. So what we're saying is that we're able to provide those returns back to that NFT by the provision of that funding. That's what the NFT is utilized. Because it's non-fungible, it gives us the opportunity to be able to manage specifically the returns back to that. Whereas the fungible token allows us to the transfer of value.
Are you planning to grow to new areas or new parts of the planet? Did you get requests all the time from people who want to build your ideas? How is it going? Because I know the Cardano community are amazing and amazing people all over the place, and I see your videos everywhere. How is it going?
Exactly. As you can imagine, we are being approached. And what we're saying to everybody is, that's why we're building a platform. That's exactly, it's about a decentralized platform. So our whole objective is to demonstrate that this can work. We're still at the very early days of our journey. You know, it's the start of our journey. We're just going from white paper to fundraising. That's where we are. So really it's around delivery. And then once we start to prove the model and demonstrate the model and increase the size of that, then obviously we can extend the reach. But it's really around putting all the building blocks in place to start. So that's where we are. We know the community is impatient, the globe is impatient for solutions such as this. We know that, and we're under the whip in terms of time to deliver. But absolutely, the whole thing around it is this journey to get there. So there's massive interest from all over, from as you say, from South America, Central America, Asia. There's a lot of interest in this because it's a global problem. And if the solution works, well, we know when the solution works, it's going to be obviously scalable. And our whole objective is for it to enable people to have access to the platform, to be able to contribute to the platform, and to be able to decentralize the skills and the capabilities of this in order to build it and make it happen. We can't do this alone. We need that to happen. We need the energy of the decentralized community to enable it to happen.
What I was thinking here, you get part of the society that cannot go for a normal mortgage. But what is the minimum requirements for that? How do you pick these people that will receive this house? How you pick the region? How it's all decided?
Now that again is where the power of decentralization comes in, because there are already developers and providers of housing on the ground. Their greatest challenge is that they can't sell the houses because there's no mortgages. So the thing around that is that, so we are utilizing the skills. So for example, in Mozambique, we have a delivery partner there called Casa Real, and they already have a lease to own product. They already have the skills and resources to build the houses, particularly in Beira. We don't have that. That's not our skills. That's not our area. We can never hope to know that. But nobody's going to know that, even if you move from Beira to Maputo, but certainly not from Maputo to Lagos. There's completely different rules, completely different challenges. That skill, knowledge, and expertise is all available on the ground. So what we wanting to do is support those developers to enable them to provide end user financing, because that's their greatest challenge. So if we can utilize that to support them, then they are going to be able to grow and expand and be able to improve their service levels through the platform, and thereby grow themselves and grow other offerings. And so that's our whole objective, is to support that process. There's one thing that I do want to talk about. As I said, often this is perceived as a charitable venture. And while I want to emphasize it's not a charity. This will not work if it's charity, because money runs out. There's shortage of charitable money that people can give away. That's not the objective. The objective here is to find a way that we can get money from where there is money and people are looking to do things with their money, through a decentralized mechanism to where people need it and are prepared to pay for that. And that's the power of this platform. So that's really the first thing I want to emphasize. So it's not charity. This is really very much a business opportunity. The second thing that I want to emphasize is around talking about the creation of value within a token. We often refer to that, and we often refer about TVL, the total value locked. If I would invite you to go to and read the white paper, and because part of this understanding of for what we're doing is the EMPs are locked into that house and then get released on payment. So the value that gets locked into the system is significant, and it grows on an ongoing basis. So if you think about that, it really starts around the success of Empowa will be built on the success of how much we can do effectively. So the more successful we are in terms of providing housing for people, the more value we're creating, the more value will be locked in the system, the more powerful the opportunity. And it's around building the entire ecosystem where everybody benefits from the growth of that ecosystem. And it's a very exciting place that we're in, actually, because if this is real FI in a way that I don't think many people have really got their heads around yet. And I think it's very interesting and exciting, because the real opportunity comes in solving developing world problems, effectively using developed world money, where there is money. So it's take money from where there is money to where there's money needed in an efficient and effective way that overcomes the existing financial systems challenges. Yeah, that's the really exciting part.
Yes, just because people think that because you cannot afford the mortgages in the normal banks, you cannot afford anything. Sure, you can. You're just not quite there because maybe you don't have a full-time job, maybe you have a part-time job, or you were studying, or whatever it is. But there is loads of people in the limbo. It's the same problem with the ID in Africa, loads of people in the limbo because they can't have their ID. So if you don't have ID, you can't open a bank account. You're solving a problem with these people. There's a kind of the property limbo where they can't afford mortgage, and you're solving a real problem. And there is loads of money to be captured in the marketing, in the places and projects that are actually solving real problems. And houses are a real problem everywhere, because what is your main concern in life? Food and housing.
Exactly.
And then when you have a solution that when you have a project to bring a solution for that problem, you kind of match everything. It's what Charles says all the time: bring power to the edges, bring the power to the edges. It's not because people live in places or in countries that's in Africa, they are absolutely poor and cannot provide wealth. They can. There's lots of people in the limbo that can come into this real FI, as you say, and they can benefit from it, and also can benefit the ecosystem.
Absolutely. And the really exciting part for me, and so just what you've mentioned there, the ID, the formal income, the whole thing around what we're doing is that the traditional financial systems look backwards. So you've got to know who you are, and you've got to have a history. And you've got to be able to prove that you don't really need the loan, okay, if you want to borrow money. Mm-hmm. Now what we're saying is we're going to be looking forward. So exactly that. The issue around it, we know that most people in the developing world don't have formal employment. So therefore, there's no record of income. They have no salary slips that they can produce and say, there you go. But are prepared. And if you coming from Brazil, it's like, if you're prepared to rent a place, you can afford it. You're not going to take a place because otherwise you have to move, and that's costly. So in fact, you know that you're going to adhere to the system. So the thing around that is that we want to be able to build that trust looking forward instead of looking backwards. So the whole model is not a mortgage, but a lease to own. So you lease the property until such stage as you own it. So the whole thing around that is, and by doing so, you build your track record as you go. You build in your credit record. We build in your, as you say, your identification and your credit history. So we're building that on the chain so that that can be utilized for something. Because again, for most of Africa, people are paying rent, exactly as you say, but there's never a record of that. So there's no credit record. And yet they pay rent every month. But it's nowhere.
Is the
So,
wealth going everywhere, but no record of it? Seriously, Glenn, I think we have more wealth goes under the carpet than on the carpet. You know what I mean? And it's what this is
absolutely.
the beauty of the thing that you're building, to capture that value and bring to the ecosystem and deliver service and solutions. So I'm glad you're here to talk to me one more time. And I wish you all the best in your sales. And please come back and give more updates to the community.
I would love to do that. And thank you for your time, and available anytime, because, we're passionate about this project. And as I said to you, we know we can't solve this ourselves. And it's so big. Actually, I saw a report the other day. McKinsey estimates that it's a $16 trillion opportunity. Now that's big enough. We don't have to be worried about competition here. This is about taking it and finding ways to make this happen. And so we're looking for the best resources, the best brains, the best energy, to take it and make it happen.
Sure. So talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks a lot. Ciao.
Ciao.